Hi, Miss Griswold.
Hi, Miss Stratemeyer. How are you?
I'm good, hanging in there, eating a lot of snacks. What are you up to?
Same, just hanging out, reading a lot of books, trying to stay sane while being stuck in the house.
And oh my goodness, look how many other people we have here today. How is everyone?
Hi, everybody. How are you guys?
Miss Griswold and I have been thinking a lot about how you're at home with your families, and we recognize that we started a school-wide read aloud with this book, Wishtree. It looked a little different at school, but it's the same text. And each of your homeroom teachers was reading aloud chapters to you. But now that we're not in school, we thought, how good of an idea would it be to start the book back over so that you could listen to the book while you're at home with your families? Right, Ms. Griswold?
Right. And we thought that especially that everybody can join you and your families, that when we read these and we post them each week, you can find a really comfy spot in your house. You can lay on the couch with your family. You can maybe lay in bed before bedtime. You could snuggle up with your dog, like I know you do, Miss Stratemeyer, with London, maybe your
All the
cat.
time.
But you can find some sort of comfy spot so you can enjoy the story with us. We're
That's
also going to be asking some questions while we're reading so you guys can pause and answer with your families while you guys are reading along with us.
This is going to be so fun.
I'm so excited.
All right, well, let's get started.
Yeah, I'm actually reading on my Kindle. So it's a little bit different for pages for me than you, Miss Stratemeyer, but I know if you're following along that you'll be able to answer the questions too.
Okay, I'm going to do my best.
All right, chapter 1. You with me?
I'm with you.
All right. It's hard to talk to trees. We're not big on chit chat. That's not to say we can't do amazing things you'll probably never do. Cradle downy owlets, steady flimsy tree forts, photosynthesize. Talk to people? Not so much. And just try to get a tree to tell a good joke. Trees do talk to some folks, the ones we know we can trust. We talk to daredevil squirrels, we talk to hardworking worms, we talk to flashy butterflies and bashful moths. Birds? They're delightful. Frogs? Grumpy, but good-hearted. Snakes? Terrible gossips. Trees? Never met a tree I didn't like. Well, okay, there's that sycamore down the corner. Yakety yakety yak, that one. So, do we ever talk to people? Actually talk? That most peoply of people skills? Good question. Trees have a rather complicated relationship with people after all. One minute you're hugging us, the next minute you're turning us into tables and tongue depressors. Perhaps you're wondering why the fact that trees wasn't covered in science class during those Mother Nature is our friend lessons. Don't blame your teachers. They probably don't know that trees can talk. Most people don't. Nonetheless, if you find yourself standing near a particularly friendly looking tree on a particularly lucky feeling day, it can't hurt to listen up. Trees can't tell jokes, but we can certainly tell stories. And if all you hear is the whisper of leaves, don't worry. Most trees are introverts at heart. All right, Ms. Stratemeyer, there's a word at the very end, introverts. Do you know what that word means?
I definitely think I've heard it before, and I know I've seen it in books, but sometimes as readers, we skip over the words that we might know how to decode, but we might not know what they mean. Can you help me with that?
I sure can. If you go back to the couple paragraphs before, it kind of describes him a little bit because if he's saying most trees are introverts at heart, we know this character is a tree. So if we go up, it says, don't blame your teachers. They probably don't know that trees can talk. Most people don't. Nonetheless, if you find yourself standing near a particularly friendly looking tree on a particularly lucky feeling day, it can't hurt to listen up. And it says, trees can't tell jokes, but we can certainly tell stories. And if all you hear is the whisper of leaves, don't worry. Most trees are introverts at heart. So we know, so we know that if we are, if he's talking about being an introvert and that trees can talk, but they probably don't know that trees can talk, and all you hear is the whisper, he's probably quiet and keeps to himself a lot.
The opposite of me.
It's not a bad thing, though, to be an introvert.
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to keep some things to yourself. All right, chapter 2. Name's Red, by the way. Maybe we've met? Oak tree near the elementary school, big, but not too. Sweet shade in the summer, fine color in the fall. I am proud to say that I'm a northern red oak, also known as Quercus rubra. Red oaks are one of the most common trees in North America. In my neighborhood alone, hundreds upon hundreds of us are weaving our roots into the soil like knitters on a mission. I have rigid, reddish gray bark, leathery leaves with pointed lobes, stubborn, searching roots, and if I do say so myself, the best fall color on the street, red. Doesn't begin to do me justice. Come October, I look like I'm ablaze. It's a miracle the fire department doesn't try to hose me down every autumn. You might be surprised to learn that all red oaks are named red. Likewise, all sugar maples are called sugar, all junipers are called juniper, and all boojum trees are called boojum. That's how it is in the tree world. We don't need names to tell one another apart. Imagine a classroom where every child is named Melvin. Imagine the poor teacher trying to get attendance each morning. It's a good thing trees don't go to school. Of course, there are exceptions to the name rule. Somewhere in Los Angeles, there's a palm tree who insists on being called Karma. But you know how Californians can be.
That's silly. Could you imagine if a tree went to school?
What I want to practice, a good reading strategy, is how to visualize. So now Miss Applegate, the author, has given us a lot of good information about what red looks like, or even how red is on the inside. So I like to practice visualizing not only what's happening in the story, but also the character's traits, so I can really make some connections with the character. So as I visualize, I'm starting to see this giant oak tree that provides all this shade. Is that what you're seeing, Miss Griswold?
That's exactly what I'm seeing. I'm imagining him being huge.
And I can just see too that when he was using the figurative language, that he would have to be ablaze, that he's so red, he's like almost on fire, and the fire department has to hose him down in the fall. I thought that was a really good thing that the author did to help me get a good visual in my mind.
Yeah,
Ready?
sorry. I was just going back and rereading as you were talking about that, and I can just really imagine what he looks like, because there's just so much good description. And I know what red light looks like on the outside, and we're also starting to get a little bit of a better idea of what he's like on the inside as a character as well, with some of his traits. We know so far he's an introvert, and he likes to keep to himself. So I'm thinking that the author is going to give us a little bit more description on who he is on the inside as well.
And he definitely, red is pretty funny, I could say, so far.
I was chuckling a few times as I was listening.
All right, so that's a good thing for readers to do. So even if you're doing any of the bedtime stories or you're reading some books at home, make sure you're visualizing in your mind if the author isn't giving you or doesn't have an illustrator giving you pictures along the way.
All right, chapter 3. My friends call me Red, and you can too. But for a long time, people in the neighborhood have called me the Wishtree. There's a reason for this, and it goes way back to when I wasn't much more than a tiny seed with higher aspirations. Long story. Every year on the first day of May, people come from all over town to adorn me with scraps of paper, tags, bits of fabric, snippets of yarn, and the occasional gym sock. Each offering represents a dream, a desire, a longing. Whether draped, tossed, or tied with a bow, they're all hopes for something better. Wishtrees have a long and honorable history, going back centuries. There are many in Ireland, while there are usually hawthorns or the occasional ash tree. But you can find wishtrees all over the world. For the most part, people are kind when they visit me. They seem to understand that a tight knot might keep me from growing the way I need to grow. They are gentle with my new leaves, careful with my exposed roots. After people write their hope on a rag or piece of paper, they tie it onto one of my branches. Usually they whisper the wish aloud. It's traditional to wish on the 1st of May, but people stop by throughout the year. My, oh my, the things I have heard. I wish for a flying skateboard. I wish for a world without war. I wish for a week without clouds. I wish for the world's biggest candy bar. I wish for an A on my geography test. I wish for Miss Gentorini weren't so grumpy in the morning. I wish my gerbil could talk. I wish my dad could get better. I wish I weren't hungry sometimes. I wish I weren't so lonely. I wish I knew what to wish for. So many wishes, grand and goofy, selfish and sweet. It's an honor all the hopes bestowed upon my tired old limbs. Although by the end of May Day, I look like someone dumped a huge basket of trash on top of me.
Oh, no.
Well, some of those wishes were really generous.
They were.
So if we are making a connection, because we know good readers make connections with the text, is there a time, Ms. Stratemeyer, that maybe you've wished for something?
I was thinking while I was reading that every birthday, people put candles on my cake, and then you know how it goes. At the end of the happy birthday song, someone says, make a wish. And every year I do try to make a wish, but I understand what the one person meant when it said, I wish I knew what to wish for, because sometimes it's hard to think about what's like the one thing that you would wish for and not tell anyone about and pray that it comes true. And I think right now, probably a lot of people are wishing that this virus goes away and that people could be healthy and be able to leave their homes and see their friends again. So if you were allowed to tell the wish, that's what I would wish for.
All right, friends at home, what we want you to do right now is we want you to pause our video, make a wish, and you can either think about it to yourself or you can share it with your family. All right, so hopefully you guys made a wish. One of my big wishes right now is the same as Ms. Stratemeyer's. I wish for safety and health, and I really wish that we can get back to school soon, but still be healthy when we do that. I would love to see everybody's smiling faces coming through that door every day again.
Me too. All right, chapter 4. As you've probably noticed, I'm more talkative than most trees. This is new for me. I'm still getting the hang of it. Nonetheless, I've always known how to keep a secret. You have to be discreet when you're a wish tree. People tell trees all kinds of things. They know we'll listen. It's not like we have a choice. Besides, the more you listen, the more you learn. Bongo says I'm a busybody, and I suppose she has a point. She's my best pal, a crow I've known since she was nothing but a pecking beak in a speckled egg. We disagree sometimes, but that is the way of all friends, no matter what their species. I've seen many surprising friendships during my life. A pony and a toad, a red-tailed hawk and a white-footed mouse, a lilac bush and a monarch butterfly. All of them had disagreements from time to time. I think Bongo is too pessimistic for such a young bird. Bongo thinks I'm too optimistic for such an old tree. It's true, I am an optimist. I prefer to take the long view on life. Old as I am, I've seen both good and bad, but I've seen far more good than bad. So Bongo and I agree to disagree, and that's fine. We're very different after all. Bongo, for example, thinks the way we trees name ourselves is ridiculous, as is the custom with crows. Bongo chose her name after her first flight. It may not be her only name, however. Crows change names on a whim. Bongo's cousin Gizmo has had 17 names. Sometimes crows adopt human names. I've seen more Joe Crows than I've seen sunny days. Sometimes they name themselves after things that catch their fancy. Hop Top, Jujubee, Dead Rat. They'll name themselves after aerobatic maneuvers, death spiral or barrel roll, or after colors, Aubergine or beetle black. Many crows opt for sounds they're fond of making. Crows are excellent mimics. I've met crows named Windchime, 18-wheeler, and Grouchy Cab Driver, not to mention a few others that are not appropriate for polite company. Down the street lives an aspiring rock band composed of 4 middle schoolers. They practice in a garage. Their instruments include an accordion, a bass guitar, a tuba, and bongo drums. The band has yet to perform outside of the garage, but Bongo loves to sit on the roof and sway to their music.
Oh, that's how Bongo got his name.
I know. Well, since she's his best pal, I really liked how the author was almost like teaching us a lesson there about friendship and how friends sometimes can get into disagreements. And I know we've all been there where you can be mad at your best friend for a little while. But I loved that the author always goes back to using very descriptive language to describe our main characters. And there were two words that I read which I could pronounce, but I might not understand the meaning of. And one of them was pessimist, and you probably caught on to that, Miss Griswold. And the other was optimist. And I was thinking if they're showing how opposite bongo and red are, that maybe those two words have something to do with describing them in an opposite fashion. So last time in chapter 1, we showed you how to find the meaning of the word introvert using context clues. This time we were thinking you could probably look it up. At home, and adults do this all the time, if you're not sure what a word means, it's better to use your resources and look it up than to just skip over it and not know what it means. So I'm going to go to Google and type in pessimist. And when I go on Google, it comes up right away with the definition. And so it says a person who tends to believe the worst. So if you're a pessimist, you're one of those people who gets so nervous and thinks like the bad things are going to happen to you. So I bet I can already think about what optimist means. So
I'm thinking, Ms. Stratemeyer, while you're looking that up, I'm wondering if optimist means the opposite. So instead of being so negative, they're probably more positive?
That's what I was thinking. So to check, I have my tool here, and I'm looking in, and optimist means a person who tends to be hopeful and confident and looks on the bright side. So you were right, Ms. Griswold.
Yeah.
So remind me, who is the pessimist?
Bongo is the pessimist.
So she's always looking at the bad things. And what'd you say? I'm sorry.
And red is the optimist.
All right. So red, our main character, is always looking at the good things that could happen. Okay, I've got it. Do you guys at home have that? Perfect.
Good. And I know that Bongo and Red are some of our characters so far, and we know that they are being described in opposite ways. And I bet you, Ms. Stratemeyer, that it's going to affect how some things happen throughout our story. We know that our friends in the older grades, they learn about how the description of they learn about how characters are described, but they also learn about how the characters affect the plot in the story.
And I can already predict or sometimes get a little foreshadowing in that maybe Bongo's pessimism and Red's optimism might cause some sort of disagreement about how to handle something in our plot coming forward.
Yeah, and especially we know that they do disagree at times, so that's a really good prediction.
All right.
All right. Chapter 5. Are you guys ready at home? All right, great. Names aren't the only way we differ from crows. Some trees are male, some trees are female, and some, like me, are both. It's confusing, as is so often the case with nature. Call me she, call me he. Anything will work. Over the years, I've learned that botanists, those lucky souls who study the lives of plants all day, call some trees, such as hollies and willows, dioecious, which means they have separate male and female trees. Lots of other trees, like me, are called monoecious. That's just a fancy way of saying that on the same plant, you'll find separate male and female flowers. It is also evidence that trees have far more interesting lives than you sometimes give us credit for. Whoa, Ms. Stratemeyer, there were some big words in that chapter, weren't there?
You did a great job reading them. I was nervous. I'm glad you were reading that time.
Whew. I was a little nervous too, but as you recommended it before, I used some of my resources while before I was reading because I saw some words that looked a little bit tricky. There was one word in there that we can already use, that we can use our context clues for. We know that context clues are clues that are given within the text to tell us the name of a word or tell us the definition of a word. So this word botanists, have you ever heard it before?
Yeah, and I think I know that root word or the noun, like the overarching part of that word.
Yeah, so the root word botanist or botany is talking about plants. So, and I know IST, the root at, not the root at the end. Can you help me with that word, Ms. Stratemeyer? The suffix at the end, thank you. I know that means somebody who studies. So botanist, somebody who studies plants. But it also told us right in the text, it says, those lucky souls who study the lives of plants all day.
They give it
So,
to you.
yeah, and they make it so easy. However, there were a few tricky words, dioecious and monoecious, that I had to use my little friend over here that you used before. So I actually had to type in this word, and dioecious is actually spelled Dioecious. So when I was trying to figure out that word and what it actually said, I was trying to break it apart by the syllables, but there was a vowel team that was 3 letters long. It was I-O-E. And if you guys can see that, that was really tricky for me to try to say because I couldn't break it up by the syllable types that we've learned. So I actually went to the same thing Miss Stratemeyer did, and I went to Google, and it gave me that little speaker where I can listen to how it's pronounced.
Dioecious.
Did you hear
Oh,
that,
I
Miss
heard it.
Stratemeyer?
Dioecious.
I heard
So
it.
I was able to use that resource to help me pronounce it. So I used it for both dioecious and monoecious. And luckily, within the story, it told us the definition of dioecious, which means that they have separate male and female trees. And then monoecious, which also has mono in it, which means one. It means that it's a fancy way of saying that it's the same plant you'll find separate male and female flowers.
Yeah,
So we can
that was a lot of good like syllable work and remembering vowel team rules, and that was a lot.
I know, but sometimes we do need our resources to help us out.
Yes, absolutely.
But we know that red is, dioecious or monoecious? He is dioecious since he is both male and female.
All righty. Are we ready? Chapter 6.
I think so.
Thanks for sticking with us, by the way, because we want to chunk it the same way your teachers were doing it. That way we can finish the whole novel by the end of the school year. And just in case we aren't back in time, we just wanted to get started now. So that way you had the time to really see what happened in the plot. Because some of you have been writing to us saying, we need to know what happened to Red. So I'm going to keep going for today, but we're almost done. Chapter 6. One thing trees and crows have in common, in fact, one thing all the natural world has in common is the rule that we're not supposed to talk to people. It's for our own protection. At least that's the theory. I've often wondered if the endless silence is a good idea. There have been so many times I wanted to speak up, to intervene, to help people. I've never said a word, though. That's just the way the world has always worked. Have there been slip-ups? Sure, mistakes have been made. Last year, I heard about a frog named Fly who'd been napping in a mailbox. All frogs are named after bugs they enjoy eating. When the mailman opened the box, Fly leapt out with a frantic croak. The mailman fainted. Nice. He woke up to Fly, who was apologizing profusely, squatting on his forehead. Clearly a breach of the don't talk to people rule. But as always seems to happen, the incident was soon forgotten. After all, the mailman was absolutely certain that frogs can't talk. Just hearing things, he no doubt told himself. Interestingly enough, he retired not long after the frog incident. In any case, when you consider the number of trees and frogs and otters and wrens and dragonflies and armadillos and everybody else in the natural world, you'd think people would have caught on to our little secret by now. What can I say? Nature is tricky. And people are, well, sorry, but most of you aren't that observant. Perhaps you're wondering, if you're a curious or doubting sort, just exactly how trees communicate. You may find yourself inspecting a nearby ponderosa pine, perhaps, or an aspen or sweet gum, puzzling out the magic. People speak with the help of lungs, throats, voice boxes, tongues, and lips, thanks to an intricate symphony of sound and breath and movement. But there are plenty of other ways to convey information. An eyebrow cocked, a giggle stifled, a tear brushed aside. These too are ways to express yourself. For a tree, communication is just as complicated and miraculous as it is for humans. In a mysterious dance of sunlight and sugar, water and wind and soil, we build invisible bridges to connect with the world. Frogs have their own way of connecting. Same for dogs, same for newts and spiders, elephants and eagles. How exactly do we do it? Well, that's for us to know and you to figure out. Nature also adores a good secret. So I was left wondering there when they describe nature as mysterious, just why do people connect so much with nature? And, I think a lot of us look at sunsets and find like peace or beauty in that. Or maybe on days when it rains, we like cozy up and read a good book. It's really crazy how things in nature can make people feel different ways. But with that, I was thinking that humans also have different ways of communicating. And I thought it would be fun, Miss Griswold, if I acted out some ways to communicate that is not verbal, that is not with, screaming or yelling or making my mouth move with sounds coming from my lungs with the breath. And what if I just acted it out and you had to guess the way I was feeling or what I was thinking?
I think that's a great idea.
All right, so I'm going to try. And if you're at home, I want you to try to guess too. How is Miss Stratemeyer feeling right now? All right, what do you think?
Was it like sad or exhausted?
That's right.
I'm wondering both because I saw your facial expression look really sad, but your sigh made you seem like you were like exhausted or tired, probably as a result of feeling sad.
All right, let's do another.
Were you excited?
I was so excited. I'm always like that. That's why I'm getting all these wrinkles. I can't stop smiling in life.
Well, I'm excited too because this is a lot of fun.
It is. At least we get to chat too with all of our friends.
I know.
All right, I can't trick you. But the moral of the story is there's a lot of ways that people communicate that aren't just through talking, speaking, yelling, things that can be heard. So there's a lot of nonverbal cues, and I bet we're going to learn even more about that in the next coming chapters.
I just wanted to add too, I thought it was really interesting that they was giving us all the different ways that nature communicates. And he says that people aren't really observant. And I kind of agree with Red because sometimes we're just so busy and caught up with day to day that we don't take time to appreciate some of the smaller things in nature that we can see, like buds blooming or the way that flowers smell or the sounds of different animals. So he makes a really good point.
Great observation. And Miss Griswold enjoys nature much more than Miss Stratemeyer does. So she probably is much more perceptive about things in nature than I would be.
Well, I know that I've been trying to enjoy the little things throughout this time. So when Mr. Don and I go on walks, we try to enjoy some of the things that nature has to offer right now.
That'll have to be a little wish for me.
All right, ready for our last chapter?
Here we go.
All right, chapter 7. I'm not just a tree, by the way. I'm a home, a community. Folks nest on my branches, burrow between my roots, lay eggs on my leaves. And then there are my hollows. Tree hollows, holes in a trunk or branch, are not uncommon, especially in trees like me who've been around a while. Hollows can be small enough for tiny salt and pepper chickadees or a family of deer mice, or they can be quite large, big enough for an open-minded bear. Of course, I'm a city tree. We don't get a lot of bears around here unless they're of the teddy variety. But I've hosted more than my share of raccoons, foxes, skunks, possums, and mice. One year, I was home to a lovely and exceedingly polite porcupine family. I've even sheltered a person. Long story. I have lots of those stored up way in squirrel hordes or acorns. Hollows happen for many reasons. Woodpeckers, fallen branches, lightning, disease, burrowing insects. In my case, I have 3 hollows. 2 medium-sized ones were made by woodpeckers. The largest one happened when I was quite young. I lost a large branch where I was weakened by wet snow during a nor'easter. It was a big wound, slow to heal, and my spring leafing that year was paltry, my fall color pale, and frankly, embarrassing.
Oh no.
But eventually, the hole healed, widened with the help of insects, and now, about 4 feet off the ground, I have a deep, oval hollow. Hollows offer protection from elements, a secure spot to sleep, and to stash your belongings. They're a safe place. Hollows are proof that something bad can become something good with enough time of care and hope. Being a home to others isn't always easy. Sometimes I feel like an apartment complex with too many residents who don't always get along. Still, we make it work. There's a lot of give and take in nature. Woodpeckers hammer at my trunk, but they also eat annoying pests. Grass cools the earth, but it also bickers with me over water. Every spring brings new residents, old friends, and more chances for compromise. This spring in particular has seen quite the baby boom. Currently, I am home to owl nestings, baby opossums, and tiny raccoons. I'm also visited regularly by the skunk kits who live underneath the front porch of a nearby house. This is unprecedented. Never have I sheltered so many babies. It just doesn't happen. Animals like space. They like their own territory. Normally, there would be arguing, perhaps even a stolen nest or midnight battle. And certainly, there have been some disagreements. But I've made it clear that eating your neighbors will not be allowed while I'm in charge. Me, I don't feel crowded at all having so much company. Making others feel safe is a fine way to spend your days.
I agree.
Well, Mr. Stratemeyer, we are getting his optimism in this chapter a lot.
We are.
I noticed that he's really optimistic about allowing all the animals to live with him. He's making it work when animals and nature are fighting with each other. He seems like a really kind and generous character. But also in this chapter, we've learned about the setting. And the setting we know is where the story takes place. And this author does a really great job of describing the setting. And now I'm not going to give that away to you guys, but Ms. Stratemeyer and I decided that we want you guys to do something for us. We've been doing a lot of think alouds and using context clues and describing the characters and looking at figurative language. But this time we want you guys to look at the setting. So your job at home is we would like you guys to draw a picture of the setting. And in this, we want you to include what Red looks like, what it looks like around him, and make sure not to only include the setting, but some of the characters that have been involved too.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea because, like we said earlier, when we were visualizing, sometimes novels and chapter books don't give us the pictures. So it will be nice to kind of get a feel for what you're visualizing the setting to look like. And I think it could even be something that maybe we add to later on when we get a little bit further into the text. So how this is going to work is you're going to draw the setting on anything you have at home, whether that be a piece of paper, computer paper, in a journal, anything like that. And you could even do it digitally if you wanted to use Wishtree or something like that that you have on your device or iPad or whatever you're using at home, really. And then you're going to send it to either Miss Griswold or to myself at our email. So at the end of this video, we're going to post with it how you can get in contact with us, and we're going to upload the video a couple places. So if you need to go back and rewatch, or if you need to see a different part, or listen to a chapter again to get some more details for your drawing, you can do that as well. And then you'll have until Monday to send us your settings so that we can take a look before our next read aloud session. Sound good, everyone? Okay, sounds good.
I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody's responses.
Me too. So until next time, bye guys.
Bye.
Thanks for
Can't wait
tuning
to see you
in.
next week.